Hi everyone. So Charlotte Palmer. I went to Middlesex Poly and did a BA in Performance Arts, and it was kind of quite an out there course. And it's where I met Petra Massey, who's now Spy Monkey. A lot of people know her. Anyway, she will go into more detail. But anyway, I ended up doing street theatre with
Yeah.
her, Covent
Okay.
Garden. Do you want more?
Yeah. Well, just quickly stuff that you do. I've heard you're an actress.
Really,
You're playing
anyway,
music as well.
we did that until the early 90s. Then she went off and did stuff in Canada, and I decided
Okay.
I wanted to be a thesp. And I then kind of did a lot. I started off doing some theatre, and then I ended up doing a lot of theatre and education, which I decided I would rather not act at all than go to schools at 8 a.m. in the morning. So I sort of gave up my agent. Whatever. Went to Japan on a 4-month job, music, flute. And whilst I was
Okay.
there, I decided I was going to do stand-up comedy. Came back and did stand-up comedy for a few years. Um, Gave up actually when I started getting paid gigs, and it was starting to go well. That's when I gave up, and then did a impro. Oh no, stand-up comedy. Got back into acting. Got a good agent through doing stand-up. Went with Debbie Allen, and then did loads of impro, and then the TV career started, and then started getting theatre stuff again. But I did from '96 did Rob Ballard's performance theatre company, did Ben Hur, went on and did Two Men in a Boat, which is where I met Aileen Wilkie. Aileen! And then did The Odyssey with Rob, which is just such good
That's
fun. I
great.
loved it so much.
And so,
Yeah.
Charlotte, that was your life story. Thank you very much, everyone. That was Whining On. Not really. Let's go back. Let's go back. Let's start at the beginning, and we go into a lot of detail here on the show, as you know. So let's go right back to the beginning and just ask you why. And this is a question I ask everyone when we begin. Why start this life? Why go into a life of performance? Why not be a stockbroker or any other kind of high-paid job?
I always wanted to. My dad was big into amateur dramatics, so I did my first Dram show when I was 5, and completely fell in love with it from then on. And just I grew up in a little village in Surrey, and I just never really told anyone because it was just embarrassing. I went to school where there were sort of lots of feisty, clever women who wanted to be doctors and lawyers. So it was just an embarrassing thing to say I wanted to be an actor. So I never even applied to drama schools because I just didn't have the confidence. So I found a course.
Well, just before we go on to that, your experience of doing Amdram as a young person, can you just go into that a little bit more?
It was just just brilliant. I mean, well, one, because from the age of 11 I went to an all-girls school. So one, I got to meet boys, which is why I joined an orchestra as well, because I got to meet boys as well. But I don't know. I remember one play we did at the Ashcroft, which is part of the Fairfield Halls in Croydon. I was 12. It was 6 characters in Searching North by Pirandello. I had no words in it. I just literally was playing one of the children in it. And I remember just sitting at the edge of this stage. It was just so thrilling. I can't tell you. It was Peggy Ashcroft. That's where it was there, and just looking out this full auditorium, just thinking, this is amazing. This is what I want to do. I love this so much. Didn't tell him I wanted to do it, and I did loads of drama exams and verse and prose. And
this was in your high school?
No, this was when I was at primary school, I met this amazing woman called Daphne Coward. She taught me at primary school when I was 6, and she then used to come to our house every week and teach us. And she talked like this, and she was amazing. And actually, I was her friend until last year when she died. We used to, she was in her 80s when she died. She's a tiny little woman. We used to meet up. We used to go around galleries, and she it's all very posh in galleries, and she'd say, "Charlotte, which painting do you want?" And I'd say, "The Monet." And she was the one that kind of developed the technique, got me to speak diction and expression. She's one of these amazing women that she was just my friend for life. I miss her a lot, actually.
Oh, of course. And so after that, you then go through high school, and you said you don't express your desire for drama with your peers in high school because you're afraid to be mocked, or
it just wasn't. It was an academic school, so it's a bit like the Tories now. Is you should only really dabble in drama and music and performance if you're a posh person that can pay for it yourself. You know what I mean? It's not a career. It's not something you should. I mean, I went to a 10-year school reunion, so that would have been in '96, and I was. People came up. I mean, I was stoned off my head when I went, but I had people come up to me, go, "Oh, and what do you do now?" I was going, "I'm a street performer." Right. Do you earn any money from that? And you go, "Yeah." "Oh, how much?" "Well, how much do you earn?" "I'm a doctor." "Well, that's so fucking rude." But it's even now. I'm convinced my mum just wants me to get a proper job. In fact, actually, during the pandemic, she has suggested other professions to me.
Yes, I'm sure she has. My mother's told me plenty of times, "Why don't you go and stack shelves?" That's dedicate my life to something.
Listen,
so
no, Matt, I would stack shelves at the minute. There's no jobs going. My mate got turned down at Aldi's to do night stacking.
Oh, I got turned down for Aldi. Yeah, I got turned down for Aldi in every tail sales job in the universe before I gave up 2 weeks into quarantine. I went, right, I'm obviously unemployable. But anyway, getting back to your story, you're in high school and you don't go do drama in university originally. You said you didn't apply for drama courses. Am I right in thinking that?
I applied for drama degrees, but the one I chose was kind of a halfway house between being a drama school and being a degree course, because at the time, none of the drama schools were accredited, so you couldn't get a degree. And Middlesex Poly and Leicester Poly, in the days when they were polytechnics, did a drama degree, which was practical. It was practical based. So it was like going to drama school, but it was a degree. And you also got, and that's where I met Petra, and that's where I met John Wright, who taught us. And it was really practical based. And in the first year, you learned how to do lighting and you did sound. And also, it was in the days where all the lighting boards were manual. And when we did the sound, we were actually physically splicing tapes and putting them together. And when we did photography, we were actually in dark rooms developing stuff. It was just a really lovely course. And and that's where I met Petra. And Petra.
Yeah, and so how did you personally? Sorry, carry on. How did you personally develop then from there? What do you think was your progression as you went to the university personally?
What, within the course, or I mean, look, one of the major things that happened during the first year, Petra had already been spending a lot of time in France, and she had a French boyfriend. And the summer before she came to the course, she'd been selling donuts on the beach, and she didn't want to do that. She wanted to go back and spend the summer with her boyfriend, but she wanted to do street. And so she asked a friend of mine, Lillian, who ended up coming to Covent Garden. She was an absolutely stunningly beautiful dancer. And Lillian said, "I'll do it if you are Charlotte." So Petra didn't even actually properly ask me. So the three of us in the first year got together a show, which we were so naive. It was a show that shouldn't have worked. And I look back on it, I think it was joyous because we were so naive. We just put like 30 minutes together of little routines. Some was dance, some was mime, it was just ridiculous. And then a friend of Petra's had an old Bedford bus. All the seats had been taken out. It was purple and lilac. and we basically drove to France. As we were driving to France, I was the serious one, and I turned around to him and said, "How much money have you all got? This is for the whole summer. I've got 30 quid. Petra had nothing.
Sean, I'm
Lillian
really sorry to stop you. You've got kind of this Dalek effect on your voice at the moment.
Oh. Now? Is that better?
It's still a tiny bit. Maybe move the microphone, twist the microphone a tiny bit.
I haven't got a microphone. It's just the computer.
It's better. It's better now.
Is that better now?
God knows what that was. Yeah, it's better now. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Please continue. So you guys are going, you're doing your first street show, you're naive, you've thrown all these different ingredients in together.
We arrived in France. I'm 19 years old. We've got no money. Literally, I had 30 quid. The rest of them had nothing. So we basically arrived in Paris on Bastille Day. We parked up near the Louvre. I don't know how we got parking space. And we did our first show.
You drove in a van? You drove in a van
it
there
was a
altogether?
Bedford bus. It was an old Bedford bus. Yeah. It was quite cool. I've got some. I'll dig out some photos. So we ended up going to the Pompidou Centre, and no, that wasn't. Yeah, we ended up going there, and that was how we started. And then we just drove down to France, and essentially spent the whole summer. We were in a place called Sète. We'd spend the day on the beach, and then we'd get the train into Montpellier, and we'd bang out 3 shows in the evening. We'd come back.
Well, Sean, I'll just drag you back again a little bit. So the first day when you arrived was at the Pompidou, right?
Yeah, we were. I think I can't remember I think we might have tried. I think we tried to do a show near the Louvre, and we got moved on. And I think we ended up by the Pompidou.
And were you the only people there?
Oh no. There were some diehard French men who sort of probably tried to tell us the etiquette, but we were just like, no, we still do it. Yeah, but I don't know how we got away with it. I think as I say, we got away with it because we were just naive and we just thought it was a blast. Just thought having a laugh.
Yeah, and so when you went out there the first day of the Pompidou after you got moved on, you got crowds, people watched you.
I can't even remember. No, I don't think it did work. I mean, I don't think it did. I think
we've gone all Dalek again. If anyone who's watching at the moment, if I'm talking rubbish and if your sound is perfect coming through the video and it's just me, can you please put it in the comments and then I'll stop wasting my time trying to adjust it. I have no idea what's happening. Maybe do you have a microphone on your headphones?
No.
Oh, you're back to normal again. That's strange.
I've got a shit laptop. What can I say?
Fair enough. So, was the other guys on the pitch? They were nice to you when you say they tried to teach you etiquette. They were kind of welcoming. They weren't standoffish. They didn't give you the. Sounds fine. Thank you, Brian.
In Paris.
Yeah. So it is just me. Don't worry. Yeah, in Paris. Yeah.
In Paris. No, they weren't at all. No, they were really quite rude. They were like, they didn't want anyone else on their pitch. That's what I remember. I mean, we weren't there for that long. We were there just to kind of earn some money. I think we were, for some reason, I think we ended up at a concert somewhere watching Ziggy Marley. I don't know how all these things happened. We didn't pay for anything. We jumped over barrier. Do you know what I mean? It was just, we were 19. We were just having a laugh.
Yeah. And so you leave the Pompidou quite quickly then?
Yeah. I think we probably, as soon as we had a bit of dosh in our hands, off we went. Petra had a boyfriend to get to see in the south of France, and that was the whole point of it for her at the time. It then went on to be something else, but that was why we started.
So you're all essentially gooseberries on Petra's date.
Oh yeah, but we had a laugh as well. I mean, we met the boys. I don't know. We were sleeping on beaches as well. Oh, there was one hilarious time when we were on the bus and we didn't know anything. We drove into a fairground by accident, but we drove into the main pylon. So the whole fairground, like the dodgems, everything just went into darkness. And there we were, the girls in the bus going, sorry. So it was just a really fun summer. And then we came back and Pet said, let's go to Covent Garden, because she'd gone there before. She'd been studying people. She was the one. I think we ended up having a piece because she'd ripped off some music from one of the acts in Covent Garden. I mean, you know.
And just drag back before we go on again, when you were in France and when you're having the kind of fun time, are you thinking about the craft then? Are you thinking about, oh, we can put this here and this will be interesting and this or this? Or are you just having a laugh and just seeing something work and you're not really being cognizant of what you're doing at the time?
Well, it was half and half, because I don't know if you've ever been to Montpellier, but the area it's one huge kind of piazza after another. It's just this long space. So I think we were aware that we had to learn a craft, but it didn't matter to us that we weren't earning loads and loads of money. But I think we were aware that we were learning something, but it was essentially, we weren't thinking about the future at all at that point. But we were just banging out the shows, having a laugh.
Yeah.
But I would say that more than anything helped me as a performer.
Okay.
More than any class.
Why so?
Because I had no confidence in myself as a performer. I think, as you know, when someone hasn't paid for a ticket, when someone just stops on the street, but you're obviously doing something good enough for somebody to stop, that gives you a whole lot of confidence. And also you need to get over yourself as well. You need to go, okay, this is embarrassing, they've walked off, whatever it is. It's not a thick skin exactly. It sort of is, but it's not, because you're still utterly sensitive to everything and everything that's going on. But you get a toughness, I think.
Yeah. And so after this holiday, then you guys go to Covent Garden, have a look at Covent Garden, see what's going on there.
So it was just a way to get some money. So we used to go down at weekends. And
was a decision made post France? So you leave France and you guys go, well, this is bloody good. We're going to keep doing this.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons why I ended up with just me and Petch, because at this point we're still a trio. We're all three of us kind of in our leotards and tight leggings, and Lillian the dancer wasn't as into it, quite often didn't turn up. So what happened was, in the third year, you have to do what was called a special exercise. You have to put together a show. And me and Petra decided to do a street show. So that was when I think the craft really came in. That was when we started to do the clowning and all that and did a proper street show. That's when that happened.
So just out of interest, because I asked nearly everyone who goes to Covent Garden, what was your first experience of Covent Garden like, going there as a performer?
What, the actual performance or the people?
The people arriving there. We can talk about the performance after, but just first of all, your first impressions, how you felt and how you thought other people felt about it.
It was really, really scary, because you had people there who were absolutely brilliant and who did huge shows. And also it was, there was no storage place to get your stuff. And actually, as a woman, to get changed. I mean, we ended up creating these huge things, material things that we could get changed into, but that came up a lot later. So it was quite daunting. I mean, everyone was very welcoming, I've got to say. I mean, some of them say that's because we turned up in tight leggings and leotards, but it was very friendly, and there were a lot more women there at the time as well. There was Ava was there, Patricia was there, Rax Sharkey doing the Egyptian dancing, Suki Webster was there. Aileen, we kept hearing about Aileen, but we never met her because she's moved on at that point. But there was loads of people there. It was a really busy place. At one point, there was split pitching. That people have been talking about that.
I've heard stories about it. Not many people. A couple of people have talked about the split pitching. I'm really waiting for Pepe to talk about the split pitching. I've heard big stories from him about it.
Well, I remember. Normally, I always hated split pitching because the shows were always better than our shows, so we would really struggle. But I do remember once, I think it was Andre in one show, and I think it was John Feely in the other. And it was just one of those magical, glorious moments when they just, over their two large crowds, just started riffing with each other. It was just really glorious to see, You
got two separate crowds, two separate shows interacting and playing with each other. It
was amazing. I don't think that could happen now.
Well, I don't think the performers would allow it to happen now, if I'm honest. But let's draw back to your story just for now. I think later on we can talk more about the performance world and how it's developed and this kind of stuff. But just for now, when you've gone to Covent, you and Petra have kind of decided, right, we're the crew. Lucy's not really into this. We're going to focus on this. We're going to get good at this. How does that go? How's your development go when you start going to Covent and you start really thinking about the shows and the craft of the shows?
We did a lot. Well, we because we developed it at college, so we did have kind of resources to hand.
When you say resources, you mean like training spaces and?
Yeah, we had all the studio space we wanted. We were given a £50 budget, which back in 1989 was massive, and we'd also had the experience before. We had John Wright was our tutor and Hugh Thomas, so we had a lot of kind of support going on.
And so did you treat it like a theatrical show? You sat, you prepped, you writ your sequences of routines, and then we never treated it like a theatrical show because we'd done enough street theatre, because we've been doing it for a year or so. So we already knew what the street demanded of you. So, but we had no skills. So we didn't juggle, we didn't unicycle. We tried to learn how to unicycle, but I could never turn corners, so it was a disaster. So that was the hard bit, was coming up with a show that was purely clowning, really. That was hard, I think. And I suppose I should ask now, what was the kind of core skeleton of what you did?
So we sort of dressed up in these stripy 1920 bathing suits, really baggy, with monkey boots, and looked quite sort of, well, we thought we looked quite tough. In retrospect, we just looked like idiots. But and then we got obsessed with this frame that had a curtain, and we the first one we did was I'd be sitting on Petra's shoulders, and we had some sort of Turkish music, and I had the what do you call it?
The yes, it's like
yeah.
Oh, bloody hell!
And then
yes,
and then my head would be coming out of the frame going that way, as we'd be going that way, and the hands, would be all doing that way, and it was Edna the naked belly dancer that ended up falling into a bin. I mean, it was really, actually, it's almost embarrassing to tell you about it, but unfortunately we did do that. We ended up cutting that because it was awful. And then we did a spoof magic act. And then we did our finale, was the human revolving fountain, which had audience participation, which ended up with, I was on Petra's shoulders. We had water everywhere. Anywhere you could put water bottles, between legs, underarms, in the mouth, whatever, we'd have water. We'd have a person from the audience holding the umbrella, and then we'd have this amazing classical music as we rotated as a you know, like a fountain, like a
Yeah.
water. I mean, that was quite good.
What made you think? I mean, that sounds great, and people mentioned that before when I was doing a little bit of research and figuring out the kind of stuff you did. That sounds amazing. How did you think of that? Why did you come up with that between the two of you?
I think it was desperation. Do you know, I think we had too much time. We had too much time and too many resources. That became our handicap. And in fact, we had a meltdown like a month before we had to perform it. We just discarded everything. And the human revolving fountain was like, what the fuck else can we do? So it literally came out of desperation because we were trying to be too clever.
Well, sometimes the best stuff does.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you say you're trying to be too clever.
Yeah. So, you know, what it is with this is what I learned in stand-up as well. It wasn't so much you can have shit material, which I had shit material in stand-up, but I learned how to perform it well. And that's what we did with the baguettes, was we just learned how to present it, how to clown it, how to front it out.
And I suppose also as well, the audience enjoys you enjoying it if you enjoy it. And if you find a way to enjoy it, then that's half the battle won from the beginning.
I don't think we were as good as we could be, and we didn't carry on with it as long as we should have done. We never really honed it. When that act got booked for all these Canadian festivals, I never went. So someone took my place. So I never really got to develop that show to the extent that it could have been good, I think.
And it sounds like it's something you wish you had done.
Well, I had this back. Well, my back went because, again, we were so stupid. Petra used to, at the beginning of the show, she used to jump on the base of my spine. And of course, I never warmed up. We'd do this in like February. So eventually one of my discs went. So by the time Canada came, my back was fucked. And at the same time, my little thespian part of me wanted to be an actor. And I wanted to try acting. So I was kind of torn.
And did Petra go and do the Canada scene and take the show there that you developed?
Yeah, so what happened with Petra was, so she went with that show, but with somebody taking my place. They did that, and then after that, that's when Petra got her solo show together, which I never even saw. And she took that around the world. But I never. You've frozen. Hello? You there? Can't hear anything.
We have from beginning Covent to the Canada tour.
Matt, you froze. I didn't hear any of that.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Sorry, mate. Let me try and readjust. I don't know if I've got some bad signal here. So, how long a span did you have from beginning Covent Garden to the Canada tour?
4 years.
Okay, cool. And what year was it you began in Covent?
87.
87.
Yeah, it would have been October 87.
Okay,
yeah.
and so when you come to the point where the Canada tours happened, you want to be an actress. How do you take that forward then?
Well, I got myself an agent. I didn't realise how shit the agent was, and I just ended up. Well, the first show I did was opened at the Theatre Royal, Bury St Edmunds. So I thought, brilliant, here we go. And then it all kind of fizzled to just doing theatre and education, which I know is really worthy. I know is really good, but I hated it.
Why?
And I, well, it a bit, because I don't really like kids theatre, to be honest. Gotta be honest, I don't like doing it. I know it's really worthy, but it's not me. Same way as like I'm not really into teaching. It's just not me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So how long did you do? You did do some kids theatre, I assume, before you realised this isn't for me.
Yeah, I did it. I did a tour where we were getting up at 6 a.m. We were loading a van. We would drive to a school at we'd get there at 7:45. We'd unload. We'd set everything up ourselves, and we'd put in. Then we'd do the show, and then we'd pack up again, and we'd go to another school and do it. Oh, it was just like, I just. So it got in the end, I just thought I would rather not be an actor than do this for the rest of my life. So by this point, I'm now in Covent Garden with the flute. So that's going on in the background as well.
And had you always been a musician? Had you always played some instrument?
Yeah. One of the bits in the first Baguette show was Petra said to me, she goes, why don't you play the flute? And I said, because it's boring. She went, come on, you've got a skill here. So we ended up doing me playing this kind of amazing Baroque music whilst Petra put me on her shoulders and literally just did loads of stupid clowning stuff. And the whole thing of that was the fact that I was able to continue playing Vivaldi or whatever it was, whilst Petra was flinging me around, falling down, whatever. I would continue to play the flute. So, and then I was flatmates with Helen Austin, who was big on the circuit. She's now in Canada, and she said, let's go and play the flute in Covent Garden, see if we can earn some money. So we started off on the North Hall.
Okay.
Before the classical music pitch opened.
And how was that experience like, starting the North Hall after you've done these big shows and you've become a show woman at this point, and now you're going kind of back to the beginning?
We didn't earn much money. Yeah, we didn't earn much money. We had it all on stands, but it was quite relaxing. I didn't have to shout, and I didn't have to. Oh, because that was another thing that I had to go and have some proper voice coaching after Covent Garden, because we didn't have microphones then, so I really wrecked my voice. Again, didn't warm up properly, so it's actually quite relaxing just playing the flute.
Yeah, I can imagine. I do think sometimes you look at the musicians after doing these big energetic shows, you think, oh, I'd like to just sit and strum a guitar for half an hour and get paid for it. It seems like it's a lot bloody easier.
Well, the difference is that you put your all in for an hour, but you get the financial rewards. But even if we put our all in, because we've got to a point now with the shows in Covent Garden where we don't just play, we dance along to it, and we chat to the audience. But we still have to, in order to earn what you earn in an hour, we have to bang out the shows. We have to do more. I have to put the time in now.
Yeah. And you said that you worked in the North Hall because there was a musician's pitch. So what's the setting of the area in Covent Garden at this time then? Have you got the West Piazza and the indoor pitch? Is there anything else going on?
No, but then, like at a weekend, there'll be a lot more fly pitching. You know, it's actually got a lot more structured now, though it doesn't seem to. There was never a magician's magic, there was never magic corner, and it was never like, oh, always got to have a musician there. You know, we did actually, you'd fly pitch around a lot more, and some of the music, and it was, I'd say, more vibrant, but that's partly because all the shops and stalls are more vibrant, so that had an effect as well.
And can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, there were what I call useful shops. There were shops back then that people who lived in the area would use, and there were bookshops, and it was affordable. It wasn't, you know, Catco have done this. I remember them saying years ago that they wanted it to go high end, mainly so they can up the rents, but it's very soulless now. It's very kind of what I call airport designer, you know? It's like, you've got Chanel. Well, I can find a Chanel shop anywhere. I can go online. But that's what it is now. It's nothing interesting, and it's nothing for your Londoner. There's nothing there. So therefore, you don't have people milling around. I mean, we haven't even got a shitty shop like Accessorize anymore for the kids. You know, for the young girls to go and buy some little sparkly earrings for $3.99. There's nothing there anymore. There's nothing.
And so you say that the shops and the sort of the economic retail sector had more of a vibrancy and engaging thing to it. Do you think that having the fly pitching and having things less structured had an effect on the atmosphere of the area?
I mean, the thing is as well, the concept of street theatre it's not a new thing, because obviously it's been going on for hundreds of years. It was relatively new in Covent Garden, and so it was still relatively new to audiences, and no one had got jaded. And I mean that with audiences, because I think a lot of audiences now are jaded and expect a certain thing. And that's why there's only a certain type of show that I think can work in Covent Garden now. Whereas before, you had what I call the Martinelli effect, with the lovely Patricia could do a lovely, small, beautiful, funny show. Whereas now, that's going to get lost, you know, because you've got to cut through with something really big, and you've got to have music, and it's got to be loud, and people just.
Did you hear that, Patricia? Patricia's gave some comments. I believe she's watching right now.
But also, like, you could have things like Rax Sharkey, who were two women, like, you know, coming on and doing really great Egyptian dancing. It was I don't know. I think the same things kind of happen to stand up as well. You know, people are used to it. People are slightly jaded. You know, you've got a certain type of show now. I think so. In those days, you could do a lot more things. Yeah, that's what I think.
And has the demographic changed? I mean, I kind of know these things. Yeah. Yes, and
of
why
course,
do you think
completely?
And you think that's because of the Capco? Do you think
it's
that's
not just
Capco?
It's what's happened to London. It's what's happened to Soho. It's you know, Soho. When you see in Timpan Alley and all that's left, they've taken down the houses, but they've left the facade up. So it still looks the same, but behind it, that house is gone, and it's posh, whatever. The heart and soul has been ripped out of London. We know that. We've seen it, and it's going out and out and out. So, I mean, I remember with Spitalfields in the early 90s, a friend of mine's a photographer. He had a studio there because they were doing really cheap rents, and he said the vibe there was amazing. All these incredible artists. Of course, anytime anything gets successful, then the money men move in, and then eventually all the artists move out. You know, you don't get anyone recording in Shoreditch anymore, do you? All the musicians and engineers have moved out. They can't afford it. So I mean, Covent Garden was really exciting. I remember me and Petra were living in Battersea. Again, who can afford to live there anymore? We lived in this house where the kitchen and the bathroom were the same room. So you'd have your bath, right, and you get out, then you pull the table down, and that would be your top for chopping, because there was the oven, you know. That is now £1 million house. Yeah.
Wow.
But
do you think they've still got the bathroom kitchen combo now in that £1 million house?
No. We had a great street performers party there.
I bet. And were you and the street performers good friends? Was there a really good sense of community there?
There were always cliques. There is always going to be cliques. So, you know, I probably got involved with more than with one. But I would say I can't think of, everyone was really friendly to me anyway, you know. Pino was always friendly. Pepe was rude but friendly. Who else? Dr. Stewart was lovely. He was a real what a charmer. Who else? I'll probably forget someone now. There was Shan, there was Pete Mianicek, there was John Chappell, there was Paddy, there was Microphone, all the girls that I've already talked to you about. I've probably forgotten some. Someone's going to go. Brian was there. Well, Brian and I didn't really talk properly for a few years. It took us a while to get to each other, didn't it, Brian?
And how did you guys?
It was a good place. There's loads of people, really.
And how Yes. How do you guys organise?
Dave
How do
Southern
you
was
guys
there.
make
No, sorry, Dave.
decisions?
Just by shouting loudly. Well, we you know how we
Well, I know,
we'd all
but
get there
everyone
really,
else
really early.
might not. So if you'd be willing to
Whoever
explain,
you got there as early as you could in the morning and put your name down, and whoever was first would get first dibs. And then eventually it got abused because people would park their vans right next to the pitch in the days when you could. So yeah, you'd have to get there really early. It was pretty horrendous, actually.
And did you guys all hang out?
You'd often still be drunk.
Yeah, it's like if I was right in remembering this, people mentioned it's like 1 o'clock in the morning that people are putting their names down.
So, was it that bad? I don't think. Well, it might have been for that bad, but I do know that some people would kind of go to sleep in their vans or wherever it is and get up at 5 and then make sure that their name's there. I'm sure you couldn't put your name that early down.
I heard stories. Did you guys hang out in the morning then? Were you socialising? Did you write your name and go home, go to bed, or
no? We all would go to the cafe. And Rob Ballard, I forgot Rob Ballard. I don't know why I forgot you, Rob, because you were a very important part of it. Eddie Izzard was there, obviously. We all just hung out and laughed, and Andre Vincent was there, and John Feely. Because I am 52 now, so I'm just forgetting names.
It's okay. It happens the best. I'm 35 and I forget my own name quite regularly.
Are you?
And so
it was. You know what? I still, and Alex Dandridge was the most important person, because Alex Dandridge to this day, we are really, really good mates. And I don't know why I forgot Alex, because I just spoke to just for a minute. Sorry, Alex. This is ridiculous. Alex was brilliant. A brilliant performer, still is.
It sounds like you had a lot of fun there, and it sounds like you had a good time. But you only did 4 years and you went into acting. Was there something that was making you feel unhappy about doing street shows?
Well, I just wanted to. I wanted it all. I think what's happened is I've ended up being a jack of all trades and master of none in a way. But I would say I have always come back to Covent Garden, and through the music, I've always have been there. And even when the second wave came with all the, Gareth Jones and Rich Garrity and Herbie Tree and all these lot, I was still there, and I still was kind of hanging out with them all, So.
Were you ever tempted to go back to the West? To go back to, I say the West, I should explain better. Are you
I've been tempted
to go back
loads
to
of times.
Shows?
I've been tempted loads of times, and I'm sort of thinking of working on a street. I'm actually thinking of coming back, maybe not to the West Piazza, but I am thinking of doing a street show again, definitely.
Great.
It's taught me all I know, really. So, but I also absolutely adore acting.
And so maybe so maybe we'll move over to the period after this 4 years then. So you try acting, you've got your shit hot agent that turns out to not be so shit hot. You end up doing a tour, doing kind of family theatre. Is that a fair description of what it was? Children's theatre?
Children's
theatre. You decide you don't want that. You're playing flute, but I assume you're still trying to act at this point. You still go on after deciding you don't want to do kids stuff. You're still trying to make it, so to speak.
I've never been that ambitious. I just wanted to perform. Before I got the what I call the good agent, luckily for me, Rob Ballard stepped into the breach here, and I think it was 96, he'd already done some performance theatre company shows there. I don't know if Two Men and a Boat was his first one, but he'd been doing some of his performance theatre company shows very successfully at the Croydon Warehouse. And Rob Ballard basically cast me as Ben-Hur in Ben-Hur, and we did that. And
what was that like?
That was brilliant.
were you rehearsing? Was there a long rehearsal period for this?
3 weeks rehearsing. So long ago, but see, Rob's shows are halfway between theatre and street theatre. So you'd always be on the stage as the audience are coming into the auditorium, greeting them and chatting with them and laughing and having all that. And then during the show, there would be audience participation. So when there was the longboat with the slaves in the galley rowing, that would be the audience, and all this kind of stuff. So it was sort of halfway house. Having said that, I did get my worst ever review, and I guess that also taught me how to get a thick skin. I had a review from the Times from a journalist called, well, Petra calls her Kate the Cunt, but Kate Bassett. And I think I was the only girl in it. No, Paddy was in it. Anyway. And Adrian was in it. Anyway, oh God, I forgot him as well. This review essentially said Charlotte Palmer has no talent, no ability, no comic timing.
Oh wow! Times. So she was kind.
So, yeah, here we go. Watch the comments. Watch the comments now coming up.
And I take it that didn't make you feel too disheartened. I'm still interested in how you rehearse a show which has an interactive audience.
It absolutely. Pardon?
Did you have someone sat in the seats when you're rehearsing, playing the audience to give you this feeling of interaction for the timing and whatnot?
No.
It was just everyone knew. No, in fact, everyone knew because you've done street.
In fact, with Rob. Well, also with Rob's shows, and I'm sure he'll agree, but at the beginning you kind of fly by the seat of your pants. So, I would say I learned a lot of skills on the job. So there was one bit where me and Rob Ballard had been shipwrecked. So we end up on this raft, which I think was a swing anyway. And there was just loads of ad-libbing that went on. So it was, yeah, I learned a lot in those shows.
And I suppose that's the sort of thing of trying to get that kind of.
And then after that, I did.
Kind of magic that you get in street shows when you are riffing in street shows and unexpected things happen and trying to capture that in a theatre.
Yes, and Rob always picked street performers to do it. So he wanted that style, So I remember seeing Pirates, and that had Shandy in and Pete Nianachek, and I think it was Matt Ricardo in that. Anyway, do you know what I mean? It was I can't remember, but it was always street theatre lots. So they all brought those skills to it. There'd always be some juggling somewhere in the show.
And so after you've done this, you've got your glowing review. You've took this review. So what happens next for you?
So after that, so then Rob was doing Three Musketeers and asked me to do Three Musketeers, and then I got a different offer. It wasn't a better offer. It was just something different, and it was. Noel Faulkner was a guy who ran the Comedy Cafe on Rivington Street for many, many years, until about 2 years ago, actually. So most comics will have played there. And he's this mad Irishman with this mad Tourette's, who he had these fantastically mad ideas. And he bought, I think it cost him 30 grand, he bought this massive Sainsbury's trailer truck. No, and he spent 30,000 he converted it into a space rocket. Basically, it was a moving theatre, so it could hold 30 people. And we rehearsed a show where we were outside the Fringe Club in Edinburgh. It was all part of the Edinburgh Festival. And the mission, we had to save the world, and we had to drive to Uranus to rescue Captain Rock Thrust, who'd come back. And it was an interactive show where we would drive to Arthur's Seat, and then the skylight would open, and Captain Rock Thrust, i.e. Noel, would come in, and this whole thing took about an hour, and that was the next show I did.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
It was brilliant. It was yeah, it was great fun. We all wrote it ourselves, and a lot of the comics were really supportive on that one as well. That was good. But anyway, that's why I didn't do Three Musketeers, because of that.
Yeah, and was that your first Fringe?
No, I did Fringe the year before. We did a sketch show based on the Beachcomber. Beachcomber used to be a comic strip in one of the national newspapers. I think it was the Express back in the day. And the Goons took that as their inspiration. Anyway, the Express said, we're going to celebrate Beachcomber. We're going to do a sketch show. Sorry to be part of the Express, but they hired 4 comic actors stroke writers, and we did that. Funnily enough, the Express gave us a 5-star review.
There you go. It's nice to get a little bit of better review there. And so, did you tour that show? Did you just go and do Edinburgh for it with the Rocket Show? This is. Did you tour that show, or no? Just a one-off?
No. It would have been nice to do it again. Noel then came down and he parked it somewhere in East London. I think it was near Woolwich somewhere, and it got vandalised, so it was never done again. It's a shame. It's a great show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, what was next for you then?
So then, that 90. I just
check your notes.
I just wrote down somewhere. When did I get? I think I got my agent then in 98. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you get your agent? Because they'd seen you working and they'd approached you, or were you scouting for agents at the time?
So I got my first TV job without an agent on the Vicar of Dibley, and I asked the casting director to name 5 agents I should go for, and she named, and I just hounded them. And Debbie Allen was within, not International Artist, she was with Billy Marsh. She came to see the show up in Edinburgh. She saw stand up, and then she finally took me on.
Okay, great. And I suppose the question is, well, what was it like working on the Vicar of Dibley? What was your first TV gig like?
Well, it was amazing because the scene, it was only one scene and it was only about 5 lines, but it was standing in a circle. It was in Broadcasting House, and there was Terry Wogan was in the scene, Darcy Bustle was in the scene, and Dawn French was in the scene. And I was just like this little kid going, I wasn't a kid because I was like 29 or something, but I was like, yeah, and amazing.
And were everyone nice there? Was it a very pleasant experience in terms of the people around you?
Darcy Bustle was very gracious. Dawn wasn't unfriendly, but she wasn't friendly. Whereas many years later, I did a bit on AbFab, and they were gorgeous. So it was a shame. French, Saunders.
Yeah. And so when you go to your agent for the first time, what's the experience? Well, it's not the first time you had an agent before, but when you go to your good agent, because I've never done this kind of thing, maybe a lot of people who are listening haven't done it. What's your experience of going to an agent, going to your good agent?
Well, I'm always scared shitless of them. I still am. I've never worked out how to deal on a basis, which is ridiculous. I mean, she was lovely and we ended up being friends, but I always felt this massive chasm because somebody is there in you or me. So yeah, I've always found it a bit tricky. I was put on fake voices.
And when you say it's tricky, it's emotionally tricky. Do you get through it? Did you find you failed a lot of times because your emotions and the inner turmoil was too problematic, or was it just more of an internal struggle?
No, it's an internal thing, and I think everyone has it. You know, I think Street found it just before each show ends, and of that massive feeling, you know, going for auditions or whatever it is. It's always that thing of you're only as good as you're good now. Doesn't matter if your last show or your last audition, your last job was brilliant. You're only as good as you are now. That's what we all have as a performer, isn't it? That's why we have this massive insecurity all the time.
Yeah, very much. So did you have an experience of having a good show and you know everything's okay, and then you have a bad show and you question whether you're capable?
I'd say the biggest roller coaster was stand up. That was a very steep learning curve, because you know I didn't actually have good material. What I did was I learned how to present it well. But
So how did you start doing stand up then? And how and why did you start doing stand up?
Well, I just went and did an open spot and was really, really appalling. But you know, you have to do that. Yeah.
And did you do an open spot unintentionally? Were you just having a drink somewhere and someone go
one of the reasons? No, actually, it was Helen Austin who said, "Go on, give it a go." You know, I'm doing it, right, or funny, whatever. So that's why I did it. But it is scary. I remember doing Glastonbury was '98, and that was through Malcolm Hardy, because he used to give me gigs. If his wife answered the phone, I'd never get a gig at the Tunnel Club up the creek. If he answered the phone, he'd go, hey, I'd give you a gig. He gave me a gig at Glastonbury, and I just shat myself for 3 days. It was on a Sunday. And as I walked across the stage to the microphone, someone shouted out, "Fuck off!" Yeah, they were tough times.
So it was a warm crowd.
Well, my mate was in the audience. She said he wasn't a Hell's Angel, but he was a big guy. He punched them and said, "Why don't you shut up and give her a chance?" So I just about got away with it. Did my 20 minutes, ran off stage where my agent was waiting for me, and Donna McPhail was also there waiting for me with a present. And I just kind of like burst into tears with relief. So I'd done it.
And did you slave over a pad and a pen for months and months before trying to write material? Did you quickly in conversation develop something? How did you try and write the material for it?
I bought this book. It was How to Be a Stand-Up Comedian, and it gave you all these exercises. So when I had my 4-month gig in Japan, that's what I just filled it all in, and ever a 5-minute routine, which when I came back, it was so bad I had to, before the second open spot, I had to rewrite it.
How did you know it was so bad?
Well, one, the audience didn't laugh, but they weren't even friendly about not laughing, and also you kind of knew yourself, so it was just awful.
And so when you go back again, do you watch lots of other comedians? Do you do intensive research to try and develop the piece, or how do you get better? How do you, in what modern gamers would say, get good?
I do. Well, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You end up you stand at the back of the room watching everyone, and you do it, and you fail, and you pick yourself up, and you do it again. I mean, you know, if I was going to do it again ever, I would. You see, if it's the same, I don't do it. But you have to write your own reel. If I'd been on the mainstream circuit, I've just got someone to write it for me, or I could just miss it. But there's this thing about, you know, you did your own stuff. Now I'm not a great gag writer. I'm just not. If I did it again, get someone to write for me, I'd never be able to. I'd know. And I could, and I am good at off the cuff and improv now.
And that's probably a lot of influence from the street. You know, I tend to talk to people who seem to be into more improv, off the cuff stuff. tend to come from street performers, because you have to be. If someone's walked into the centre of your pitch with their cock out, you have to be able to do something to deal with that.
Well, totally. That is exactly what happened to me in Petra one lovely day in February when it was snowing and there was, I think, 2 people watching, and then a guy just walked past and he just dropped his trousers, you know. So yeah, absolutely. And actually, funnily enough, in my TV stuff, I've done a lot of hidden camera stuff, because it comes easy to me because that improvising, because there's no situation that can. And actually, it's what I did immersive theatre last year. Which just makes, as I say to them all, but we street performers have been doing this forever. It's just that you've just started to call it immersive, but this is what we've been doing, you know. So yeah, definitely, it's so many jobs done. It's been that grounding has helped me.
Yeah, and just out of interest, when you bailed doing stand-up at first, why didn't you give up? Or not bailed, but when you died, essentially, the first time you did it, why not just give up? You have lots of other creative outlets.
I don't know, and I really pat myself on the back for that now, because I didn't, and I had a motorbike at the time. I remember, like, you know, 4 or 5 times a week, and in those days it was a lot easier to get an open spot. I don't think it's that easy anymore, but and there were lots of clubs where you could just turn up and do it, and I just did it. I don't know why. No, do you know why? I think because I didn't have anything else. I don't think I did have anything else, so I had to keep going.
And was there a burning desire to create good work, or to be respected, or just to get something that makes people laugh?
I wanted to get to a point where somebody would pay me to do 20 minutes. And it was really scary. I remember it was Pete he ran the downstairs at the King's Head, and he said, "I'm going to give you a paid gig," and I said, "I haven't got 20." He said, "Well, what have you got?" I said, "I've got 13." He said, "Well, just take it slow." I was just like, oh, you know, there were people like that were there, kind of, you know, nurturing you and supporting and just, you know, helping you out. And also, I remember John Mann at the Square in Harlow, he also gave me a paid gig, and he shouldn't have done because I wasn't ready. And he, you know, come on. So there were at the time there were some clubs that.
You're saying there were some clubs. It's we've got quite a bit of lag
there were
between.
Some clubs where. Sorry. There were some clubs where they didn't like me, and I couldn't handle it, you know, and I wouldn't get booked there. But there were some clubs that I remember. There was a guy called Zed. He's dead now. But he was so lovely, so supportive. I used to phone up and go, "Hi Zed, I haven't got any gigs." "Haven't you? Right, Watford, 29th, right? Yeah." And you know, so there was some lovely people out there, yeah. But it wasn't, again, don't think there are plenty of people that are brilliant at it, and I don't think I was one of them.
Did you get to the point of being a regular paid stand-up though? Did you achieve that goal you were looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I ended up getting enough paid gigs. You know, when I gave up, I think I'd just done a little mini tour of Ireland. I think I was supporting Junior Simpson, and I'd done some of the glee clubs, and I remember my last ever gig. It was up in Norfolk somewhere. I remember being in the ladies' loos, and there was a hen night or something, and I just remember just feeling so lonely, and I hated that aspect of it. I hated being on my own. I like working on my own.
I hate to be someone who feeds on misery, but can you describe a bit more about why you were so lonely?
there's no one to buoy you up when you've done a bad gig. There's no one to talk about how brilliant you were when you did a great gig. There's all that traveling on your own.
And so this is a difference between learning and becoming a working comedian. Is when you're a working comedian, you're on your own more now. Yeah, is that correct?
Yeah, and you know, obviously you do a lot of gigs where you'd share the car and you'd have the green room so you could chat to people. But at that point, I don't think I was strong enough. And I do my best work, I think, when I'm riffing off someone else. When someone else is there and they say something, and then you come back with something funny, and then they come back with something else. I think that's when I'm at my best. I don't think I'm at my best on my own. And I know there are other performers like that.
Yeah, and so you're in the dressing room and you have tears in your eyes, or the bathroom, sorry, with tears in your eyes. And is that the moment that you decide you're not going to do it anymore?
Well, yeah, this. Do you know what? This was just even before I'd gone on stage. I don't even know how the gig. I can't even remember how the gig went. I just knew that I was going to have to do my show, and then run off stage and run somewhere in the darkness to go to a railway station in order to get the last train back in time. And I just thought, I just don't want to do this anymore. And at that point, and I'd also split up from someone, Petra said, go and do this audition for this. It was like a Cirque du Soleil type, Le Clique type Spiegel show. It was in Germany. And she knew some of the people. And I ended up going out there and auditioning and getting it. So I ended up, funnily enough, I ended up doing a clown workshop, and he ended up being the director, David Shiner.
Oh wow! There you go.
You interviewed. Yeah.
Yeah, we had David on about 3 months ago. He was wonderful.
Yeah. So I got into the show when it was in Frankfurt. Then I flew out to Munich, where Shiner did this massive clown workshop over a week with the new members, new people that joined the show, and ended up being in Berlin, where I met the Stretch
and what
Boys,
was it like getting taught by David?
Donald Grant, and all these other circus performers. Well, he was brilliant. I mean, in the workshops, he was brilliant. When it came down to the show, because the show had been already going, it was a 4-hour show. It was like 4 courses with international acts plus a whole load of comedy performers. And he was supposed to have a new part, but it ended up that he just redirected the show. So it was a bit frustrating, but it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, and did that set a new life path for you from then, or was that a one-off experience, and then you came back to figure out what you were going to do?
So you've cut out.
Sorry. Did that set up a new life experience you then when you went into the clowning workshops and worked in that show? Was that a new trajectory for you?
Sorry.
It's okay, Charlotte. The line's very bad. Can you hear me, Charlotte? So I'm not sure if it's me or Charlotte's.
Now I can.
Can you hear me now? Hey, we're back. So I'm not sure whether it's me or you that's lagging. If we do lag out, I don't know if it's you or me that's lagging. If we do lag out again, chances are it's me that's lagging out. Please carry on by all means, and I'll try and pick up when I come back in. The thing I asked was, when you went and worked with David Shiner and you did the clown workshops and you did that piece, was that a change in direction for you? Did that set up a sort of similar but different path?
It was a diversion, but me and Petra had already, when we left Middlesex, on the advice of John Wright, gone and done a clown workshop, which had completely inspired. I forgot to say that, but it totally inspired me and Petra, and so I was comfortable with the clown workshopping. What was amazing about that show, though, was just for the first time in my life, I saw a quality of circus that I'd never seen before. So, which completely blew all the Brits out the water. But where the Brits blew them out the water was that their clowning, their comedy was all, I thought, awful. I didn't like it. I didn't find it funny. So I wish we could have had more of the Brit style clowning with.
Can I ask you why you find it funny?
High skill level. Have you ever been to see a Cirque du Soleil show?
No.
Well, you can't now because they've gone past that. I can't.
I mean, I've watched some artistic clowning.
I hope someone else can describe it.
It's a tad dry, maybe. Is that it?
It's not look. Chaotic. I'm not saying it's not even dry. It's. I can't. I just genuinely don't find it funny. I don't know. I don't know. When the Stretch Boys would come on and do their show, they were really funny. But when the actual so-called proper clowning came on, I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it's a different style of humour.
Who are the Stretch Boys, and why were they so funny?
Have you not heard about what they call this? It's John and Martin. You have to look them up. They did a chair balancing act. They were just very funny whilst they did it. I shan't tell you more. You should have them on. Martin now is in. I think he's in Montreal. And John's still in England. I think John lives on a canal boat, or I don't know if he still does.
Same as myself then.
Yeah. Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I don't know what I was saying really. There was also Donald Grant. Have you heard of Donald?
No, I've not heard Donald Grant either. So a lot of new names today.
Donald lives in Fife now, but he did a lot of the European circuit. He did a classic 8-minute Diabolo routine, absolutely brilliant. No talking; it was all to music in a kilt.
Okay, but I take it there was quite a bit of physicality to it. There was a lot of movement.
Yeah, it was a bit cheeky. He'd,
okay,
bit saucy, but look up Donald as well, because he's written books and stuff. He's really well known on the circuit.
I definitely will. And so, what came for you after this then?
So I left that job. That was 2001. And I came back, and ever since then I've been doing theatre and TV and music. Just I always love coming back to Covent Garden. I hate it if I'm there too long. That means I haven't had a theatre job for a while. And then I'll get a theatre job, and then I'll come back again and love it again. And yeah, I love Covent Garden because it just keeps me sharp, and it's kind of where I think it's where I started, and it's where I feel at home.
Yeah, and something we haven't touched on yet, and I think maybe we've moved over it slightly, but it's something that I was asked to ask you about, and something I'm quite interested in. The classical musicians pitch, the pit, as we call it. That wasn't around when you began, and somebody mentioned that you had some influence in that being set up.
Well, only in that we were asked for our opinion. I do remember being quite sort of protective over it. There used to be no, actually, do you know what? I don't want to talk about. I don't want to mention anyone by name. But there was one group that used to play everywhere. They weren't classical, and I remember them, and they sort of colonised pits and places where they went, and it would just be really difficult to get in. And I do remember them coming down to the pit, and I remember just making sure they did it, because that would have just made it into another fly pitch, if you see what I mean. So I think I was quite instrumental in having it written that it was for classical.
Instrumental, eh? Instrumental.
When we first started, there were only the opera came later. Opera was later. It started off with me and Helen and a quartet called Sigma, who aren't there anymore. That was all it was for a long time. Yeah.
And how did
we
you
didn't
organise
even
yourselves? Did you just roll up, or?
I think at first we did roll up, and then when more, I think we just rocked up and just used to alternate, and then when more groups joined, that's when we joined the North Hall type of setup.
You started making lists and cues and that kind of thing. And
yeah,
you said you worked with the theatre and stuff since then. Have you got any kind of big moments that time? Because we're talking about 19 years. This is a long span of time from then to now. That surely there must have been some big moments for you in between these times.
What, in theatre? Or in my career?
Well, as you choose, you know.
Okay, so funnily enough, the three theatre shows that have had a real impact. So the Odyssey, and Three Men in a Boat.
And Odyssey was Homer, I assume, a retelling of Homer.
Yeah. So we did it, and we did it all. We did every chapter. We even did the Lotus Eaters at City Door doing that. Three Men in a Boat with Aileen was incredibly good fun. The other I did Blithe Spirit two summers ago, and I loved doing that because of the Rolls Park Open Air Theatre, which and then we did a tour. But playing at Regent's Park was a dream of mine. So that's a big dream come true. And
and can you just go through the experience of that dream come true, a kind of a sort of loose blow by blow account of it?
What
of performing there? That was always a dream of yours. You lived your dream.
Well, it's a really well-known theatre, but still it's outside. You can hear the roar of the tigers occasionally as you're performing. You've got two resident robins on either side that come and visit you, and it's just it's quite. I'd say it's like an 800-seater, something like that. It's just, but it's open air theatre, but it's just, I don't know. It's just glorious, absolutely glorious. On that tour, got to play some really old, amazing theatres like the Theatre Royal in Bath, and there's a Theatre Royal in Newcastle, which is just beautiful.
And this was a different experience of being on tour to being a stand-up on tour, I take it.
Well, you're in a town for a week. Yeah, I mean, because the whole thing is I don't know, I love that whole process of warming up on the stage, being in the dressing room, putting the makeup on, having the call comes over, I don't know, I just love all that theatrical side of it, all that lovey side. I love it.
Yeah. And
I love that side in TV as well. I love being in the makeup truck. I love sound checks. I love it all.
So since we're reaching the last quarter of the interview now, let's talk a little bit more about the street performance world and then and now. How do you think street performance is changing? I know we've touched on this earlier on in the interview, but just a little bit more focused now. How do you think it's changed over the years?
You see, I can only comment from a Covent Garden point of view. And I know from talking to lots of other people in my life how that's viewed as something different anyway, isn't it? There's a lot of street performers that would never even go near Covent Garden. There's a lot of the Bristol lot, they wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? So it's a very kind of special, unique place, and I can only comment from the Covent Garden point of view. I would say I just don't think there's as many people. I don't. Like on our pitch, like with me, there's a lot of the same faces. There's just not as much variety, I don't think. I wouldn't criticize it though, because I just think that what happens is we will adapt to a space and how it is, and how the audiences have changed as much as the performers have. I think right now is probably a great time to try different stuff. It's partly why I'm thinking of getting a show together.
And you'll get the time in the West.
Get the time in the West, and also I'm, and I don't want to have a show where I want it to be a silent show. I don't, so it'll be a great time to try out all these things, because I think it's been quite a tough space for a long time. Would you agree?
So in terms of then and now, it's definitely more tough now, and it's different now. We've been working there for about the past 3 weeks at this point. Before compared to now, what's interesting is when I first began, there was lots of people there. There was crowds of people sitting, waiting to watch the show before you began. We don't have that now. People aren't going to Covent, as I can see, to experience a cultural space, to sit there and absorb culture.
Exactly.
They go there to consume a show. So they walk around, they consume the show, and then they go somewhere else to consume something else. And that changes the nature of the show then, because you're not playing with a crowd who are there to watch you. The crowd's there going, give me something. Hurry up, show me something, give me something. I'm here to take something, to consume it, to have it. And so that means that I think, like you said, the shows adapt to their environment. And so the shows become a lot more tight. There's less play, there's less mucking about and experimentation.
And it's louder, and people, the music is, really kind of invasive, I would say, quite a lot of the time. Yeah. There's a really naughty part of me that would love all of the shops and restaurants to close down, and the whole place is boarded up, right? And everyone, all the posh flats, they all go, and it becomes this derelict area. It's just, it's not going to happen. And then the artistry might come back, and do you know what I mean? It's like,
so you want to reset it back to 1980.
It'll never be 1980, but I kind of want to reboot. I don't want it to be luxury. I don't want it to be high end. I want normal people to be coming there. I don't want the posh people that are coming to buy. When someone walks past my show with a Ted Baker bag or whatever it is, I don't even know if Ted Baker's that posh anymore, but do you know what I mean? With all these designer bags, and I don't want them in my audience. I don't care. They're the people that do the horrible corporate gigs, all that kind of stuff. I just want normal people with a few quid in their pocket coming out for a great day out, And
yeah,
I can't see that happening at the minute.
Well, in between a worldwide pandemic and the looming threat of Brexit, everything might collapse. You might get the dystopia that you're looking for.
I think now is the time to be brave. Now is the time to experiment a little bit more, because you're not going to earn that much money anyway. So why not?
Yeah, exactly that. And do you see, when you talk about street performance, do you see street performance as having any particular responsibility? Like, people might talk about the arts having some form of responsibility to inform or to have dialogue.
Absolutely not. No.
Okay.
No.
Why so?
No. Entertain. That's it.
And
why should we? Why should we? If I have a responsibility, that's in my own private life as a voting person. I think I have a responsibility, and I have a responsibility as a citizen to buy sustainable, But as a performer, I'm literally there to entertain.
Okay. And do you think that people who try and force ideas into their audience's heads kind of miss it a little bit? They miss the point?
I mean, I think some people can. If that comes naturally to them, then do it. What I mean is, do what comes naturally to you. Don't think you should do anything. You know, if you're a stand-up comedian and politics is your thing and it comes, then do it. If you're good at that, absolutely do it. If you're the sort of person that needs that, you know, your entertainment is putting the firework up your ass, then then do that, because that is because that is just as valid and it is just as entertaining, and it's what you know. You don't decide what your clown is. Your clown decides you. And if your clown says you're a stupid clown, that's what you've got to do, isn't it?
That's a great piece of advice, and I suppose I feel like I should elicit more advice from you this moment. Then is, if someone was going to go into street performance now, if people want to start street performance, what would you say to them?
I'd say accept the fact that it's going to scare you shitless, and embrace the fear. And like the clown is like you're gonna fucking fail and you're gonna die on your ass, and you've got to pick yourself up and do it again. That's life, you know, and it's the only way. I've learned more doing that than I did 3 years of a degree, you know. So it's only by doing it that you can learn. And also, I mean, I say this, but I'm always judging myself. But try and get rid of that little imp on this thing, because you're shit. Yeah. Try and listen to that one that goes, you're really amazing. Yeah. Before I used to stand up, I used to go into a toilet and literally make myself laugh, so that I could just kind of, because that's what an audience wants to see, is the fact that you're comfortable and that you're enjoying yourself. That's it.
And so you kind of push yourself into that state of mind. You sort of hack your own brain to be in that moment.
Yeah, that I love this. I love you. I love this. I love what I'm doing. You know, because if an audience spots that, they want to stop and watch more. But if they see the fear in your eyes, they're going to be uncomfortable.
Yes. Well, they empathise, don't they?
Yeah.
They
and that's why you can see somebody with a shit show, as in shit content, can have a really great time and a really great show. Content really doesn't matter.
And how do you define shit content?
Can't hear you.
Hey, I'm back. I can't decide whether it was me or you, Swen. Can you hear me now? Yeah, so when you say someone has a shit show, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're breaking up a bit.
Can you hear me now? Am I back?
When I say shit show, I don't mean a shit show. What I mean is, it's a struggler in the world. You know, you don't have to be the best at anything. You deliver. Oh yeah, and be funny.
Well, it helps, doesn't it? Charlotte, I think at this point I will say thank you. It's been great chatting with you. Is there anything else you want to say to everybody? Broadcasting live on the internet is an absolute joy. Are you still there, Charlotte? Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me now? Yes, they can, Brian. Can you hear me now? This is Matt to Charlotte. Matt to Charlotte. Coming in. Can you hear me? Are we back? I have absolutely no idea what everybody's seeing. I don't know if they're seeing you or they're seeing me. I have no idea where the glitch is lying at this moment. Oh, you're back. Hello.
Technical difficulty.
Are we still there? Are we back? Hey, how you doing? You back? Yes, indeed. Are you back? Can you hear me?
I can just last bit when maybe we should, yeah. But now,
I'd say to everyone,
on again.
Charlotte love.
Yeah. Thanks, Aileen.
Okay, so I guess there you go. So I guess I'll take an initiative here, and I'll say thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. Hopefully, the technical difficulties during the interview were not too much to deny anyone's joy from listening to it. I don't know if Charlotte can hear me saying this, but Charlotte, you're an absolute... No, she's gone now. It's an argument. So Charlotte was an absolute joy. Absolute joy to listen to. Incredible stories, really interesting, funny, lively. Done stand-up, flute, street shows. Such a full-packed life as an entertainer. Really appreciated listening to it. I hope everybody else who's watching appreciated listening to it too. From me, from Matt, I say thank you, everyone. Thank you for whining on with us, and goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Ciao.